You're being smuggled out of the country and you have to pay your way to be smuggled out. When we got on the boat for 7 days, the first 2 days we had some food, and then the next 5 days just sips of water.
Dr. Emily Letran is a living testament to the power of unbroken spirit. At 13 years old, she fled a war-torn country as one of the boat people, arriving on the shores of America with no English and a future that was entirely unwritten at that point.
When I came to the US, it's a few words of English. I was advised to watch the news. This is in 1981. There's no caption, no nothing like that. I think in difficult time, if you can hang on to love and gratitude, you can go through a lot of things. Okay, sorry about that.
No.
Didn't quite expect that.
You don't have to be sorry. When you go through hardship, you appreciate life. You appreciate ease.
We know that we should learn from the people who go before us rather than ChatGPT or whatever it is.
Can you describe us, in what ways exactly has it shaped you? Or what learnings do you carry from that time to now?
Well, I think
the more you know, the more the unknown grows. I am Jitesh Vaswani, your host, and together, let's take this journey beyond the known. They say that a person's life is shaped by their environment. But what happens when that environment is a boat on a vast, unforgiving ocean, and the only thing you have left is a name you haven't made for yourself? Today's guest is a living testament to the power of unbroken spirit. At 13 years old, she fled a war-torn country as one of the boat people, arriving on the shores of America with no English and a future that was entirely unwritten at that point. But where others saw a void, she saw a canvas. Dr. Emily Letran did not just survive the transition, she mastered it. She became a healer of smiles as a leading dentist, a mother of 3, and a high-performance architect for some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. As a key voice within the Los Angeles Tribune, she teaches that ultra success isn't about the hustle. It's about mastery of the mind. She has taken the grit of a refugee and transformed it into a blueprint for global leadership. I am Jitesh, and this is Beyond the Known. Today, we explore the distance between the shoreline and the boardroom with Dr. Emily Letran. Emily, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that you and the Art of Living take the time to create the platform for us to share our stories and hopefully help everybody live a better life.
No, absolutely. I'm very curious. I mean, you have lived a very interesting life, right? Like as a refugee coming on a boat, describe how was that like? It must have, I'm sure it must have been hard, but I want to hear like a first-hand account.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit context, so there was the Vietnam War, and it started in the 60s, and it ended in 1975. Well, it kind of started before the 60s, but we just use that as a frame of reference. I was actually born during the war. I do remember my family telling me, hey, your mom had you, pregnant with you, and she was running for the bomb shelter, right? And so I was born toward the end of 1968. So when the war ended, the communists took over Vietnam, and that changed lives because you go from a country with freedom to obviously a different government, and life just changed overnight. So a couple years after the communists took over, when I was 13 years old, I left the country with my aunt. She's my dad's younger sister. So my mom had passed away when I was 8, and back at that time, you're being smuggled out of the country, essentially, and you have to pay your way to be smuggled out. So we didn't have enough money to pay for the whole family, so it's my aunt and her 2 kids, and then me and my brother. That's the second family, and then 2 other cousins. That's the third family. So she left with 6 kids. We were 7, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Wow.
And so we were on a boat in the middle of the ocean, like your introduction. We were on the ocean for 7 days. The first 2 days we had some food, and then the next 5 days just sips of water. And I think there's a straight way if you were to leave the country to go to one of the nearby country like Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines. But the long way is to avoid meeting the pirates from Thailand. So I think we took the long way. It took us 7 days. We were very lucky. We didn't get into any pirate boats or anything like that. And when I was on the island, it's one of those deserted islands in Malaysia. It's called Pulau Bidong. And the United Nations, UNHCR, has made that into a refuge, right, for all of the refugees. There are, I don't know, probably hundreds of thousands of people who are there over the years. I was there. This is like you have makeshift shelter, and you start from the beach and you just start building up because there's just so many people. So I was in one of those longhouse, we call it. It's just like a little bunker, right? And there were, I think by the time we all got there were 10 of us there living together. We have 2 hours of electricity in the evening, and every day you get in line to get a bucket of fresh water because you're on an island. So there's some wells, but the fresh water from the tank, and you get a bag of supplies. So it's supposed to last you 3 days, however you handle it. And I was very lucky. I was only there for a little bit more than 3 months. There were people who were there for years. And we got lucky. We got accepted to go to the U.S. So when I came to the U.S., it's a few words of English because in the camp you're supposed to learn English. But you know how that is. You could be studying English and then you meet the first person who speaks English and you just freeze and you don't know. So those first days were pretty challenging. I would go to school and it's just like noise because I don't understand. I don't understand what the teacher is saying. I don't understand what the friends are saying. You should know that they kind of look at you because you don't look like them. And eventually, I learned the language because I knew that was the key, right? To open doors. Because if people talk to you and you don't understand them, they're gonna ignore you, essentially. And so learning English was important. I was advised to watch the news because they say, my friends would say, because the people who are on the news, they speak more clearly. Yeah. They pronounce it better. And so I would spend 2 hours watching the evening news. It's repeated news, But that was part of my homework. Is I'm just sitting there, just trying to listen. This is in 1981. There's no caption, no nothing like that. So it just watching people's lips move and listening to the sound and try to make sure that you understand some of it by context. Right. So to this day, my kids still tell me, your enunciation is wrong. Okay. Your pronunciation is wrong. I said, okay. I think people understand me by context. Right. Even if I mispronounce certain words. Yeah. And it may sound unique, but I really think that's the story of all the refugees who come to a new country and trying to assimilate, whether it's the language or the culture, and also the mindset.
I'm picturing like all these refugees in an island, or like all of you coming on a boat, but you probably, do you have memories from those times? Like do you have can you paint us a picture of how was it on the boat? Like how big was the boat? How small was the boat? And same for the island, and any distinct memories that you have from those times?
It's funny, when we got on the boat, it was in the middle of the night. Okay. So we were crawling, because remember, we're being smuggled out of the country. So we were crawling onto the boat in the middle of the night, and as soon as you get in there, they tell you to go into the whatever it is, right? Because they're gonna close it up, and then they're just gonna take off. Okay. And I never really saw the boat, right? Oh, wow. So in the morning, when they let you out, and you're sitting there, and I think the second day we got into, there was some kind of storm, and they told us it was only level 2, but it felt like you're sitting there and somebody's just shaking, right? Because it's a little boat. And I think I went to the bathroom once just to pee, and which basically means you crawl from one end of the boat to the other end, and you crawl through people. If you have people sitting with their feet against each other, like sardines, essentially, probably 60 of us, and the boat is maybe 50 feet. It wasn't a very big boat. And most of the time, my aunt and us, we were sitting on the bowl, because inside people, they're throwing up, they get sick. So outside is where you can get some air. So essentially, we were sitting in the sun.
Yeah.
And then at night, of course, we're out there. I remember, the image that I remember is when we got off the boat. It was in Terengganu, which is a military base, right? We ended up in there, and I remember that there's a little jetty and there's some boats. And I was telling my aunt, there's a sad little boat. And I'm looking at it. And she said, yeah, it's our boat. Because I never saw it when I came on.
Yeah.
And when we were on there, I grew up from the front to the back. So you never really got a picture of the whole boat.
Is that the story that you mentioned in your book, Refugee to Success Catalyst?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit of it.
And then you came to the island, right? You were
Yes.
there for 3 months. You
Yes.
said there were some people who were there for years.
Yes.
And did you ever think about them, like when you came to America?
There are people that you meet there, and well, if you're stuck on the boat with somebody, you become their family. And then once you're on the camp, then you look out for each other, right? And for example, when we left, there were families who were still there. And then when we ran into them, we reconnected in the US, right? The people, what I do remember on the island is, well, put it this way: when you're 13, you don't think much, right?
Yeah.
You don't really see the bad side of things. You don't see the fighting. I mean, I remember the fighting when we were trying to put our bucket in line to get the water. People kind of push you and shove you around. But there were fightings in the camp. There were people who got killed by the Malaysian police for whatever they do. Well, what do you expect when you have thousands of people stranded on a little island, right? Sorry. So for me, what I remember from there, for me personally, was, I had 2 things to do: try to learn English and go swimming, because there's nothing else to do on that island. It's a deserted island. So we were close to the beach. Every day we go to the beach and try to catch fish to supplement our diet, and trying to learn English. And I remember they held English classes where the teacher is writing on the chalkboard. And what I did was waiting outside. When the class is done, I would run in there to take the chalk, the leftover chalk. Then we would go home. The little bunker that we're in is made out of wood. So there are all 6 of us. Everybody's writing on the wall, the English words that we're trying to learn. And then we erase it. And then we're writing it again. So it become a giant chalkboard. I think for me, the memory there was positive in the way that I didn't know enough to worry. I think my aunt must have been crazy worried, right? But we didn't know. We just, okay, I guess we're gonna be here, just learn English and go swimming. And we didn't really have a lot of food to eat, and everybody have the same thing. Unless somebody go fishing and then you try to buy fish from them. My cousin, I think for the 3 months we were there, I think he sent us maybe $200. Oh, I think he sent us $100. And my aunt sold her wedding band for another $100. So we bought some fish, and sometimes they sell vegetable that they brought from the land. Yeah, so a little bit of that. But for me, it was. I don't want to say it's the best summer, but it was one of those summer where you just play because there wasn't much to do. I mean, we miss home every day. We would go to the beach, and that way's home.
Can I get you some tissue paper?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
No.
Didn't quite expect that.
You don't have to be sorry. It's part of your story. It's part of who you are. Did that experience, I mean, I'm sure it has shaped you into who you are today, right now. Can you describe us, like, in what ways exactly has it shaped you? Has it, impacted you besides, of course, the incredible amount of hardship and the incredible amount of challenge that would throw to somebody's life? I cannot even imagine as a kid going through something like that. What experiences or what learnings do you carry from that time to now?
Well, I think one of the things that I learned, and I would say it really didn't hit me until I got to the U.S. And one of the big things is gratitude. You made it here, and now this is this big grand life that you have a lot of things that you didn't have. Like, we didn't even have that back home, right? And then, of course, when you're in the refugee camp, you start missing things like, okay, I want electricity. Well, you have 2 hours. Whatever you do, 2 hours, and then you're done. I wanna eat chicken or whatever it is, right? Because it's not available. Period. So you appreciate when we got to the U.S. I appreciate that, right? And then I appreciate having the opportunity, because however people look at their journey, sometimes they look at it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And it's easy to, when people talk about it, to be, to have regrets or to feel unhappy when they share about it. For me, it's not that. It's when I talk about it, like I told you, hey, that was a great summer, right? Yeah. It wasn't as good as the summer at home, but it was still great because we got to go to the beach and do all these things. The gratitude is one big thing. The other thing is you're feeling love, because all of my cousins become my immediate family, right? Because I only have my brother there.
Yeah.
So to this day, in the U.S., we have just my aunt, and I don't remember how many cousins now, but the cousins and their wives and their kids and their spouses. So the same cousins that survived that journey with you. So I think in difficult time, if you can hang on to love and gratitude, you can go through a lot of things, right? While we were living there, I mean, I know there were ladies who were crying because they were raped, right? And now I know that they come to this country and they make a better life, right? So I think there's certain challenges that God or whoever you want to call, the higher being give you, and it is for you to grow. And it may sound, some people may say, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say because you made it through and you have all this. But I would challenge people to think that if they have that in them, right? They have the love and they have the gratitude. It's easier to come to live with peace because you don't blame it on other people because, hey, you made it through, right? And you know that there are higher forces than you because when you're in a camp, I mean, what are you going to do? You don't have any control. And so when you live here, you got the control back for life, right? Now you have the control for your life. Now you can do things on your own. Now you can choose to love or to have gratitude, whatever. But if you make that your way of life from a difficult situation, I think you're just going to have a better life.
How is it that I've interviewed a lot of folks, right? And I always find that people who have had, you would expect that when people go through so much, they would be cynical about life. But I feel like people who go through a lot have the most amount of love and gratitude. And the people who have been given everything, they're the most ungrateful. Unfortunately.
Right.
Right. And I think it makes me think that it's almost like, we talk about it on the Art of Living course. It's like opposite values are complementary, right? When you go through hardship, you appreciate life. You appreciate ease. It's almost like the yin and the yang, right, in the Eastern culture. For that young kid, when you came to America, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, right, and you're forced to sit in a school, make new friends. How did you adjust, right? Like you watched the news, but what was going inside the young Emily at that time?
I think at that time it was frustration. There was a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I remember one of the things I hated the most, and I forced myself to do, was to watch sitcom.
Yeah.
Because I said, okay, I got to watch some regular English, right? And I just could not understand it. And every 5 minutes, they would laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, and why are they laughing? I really want to understand why people are laughing. So there's a lot of that frustration because you don't quite understand everything. That's one of the driving force for me to say, hey, I really need to understand this. So I'm going to try to learn English so I can understand the jokes. The culture part, obviously there's a lot of culture shock. I remember I was in high school and they would have those assembly. And of course, I didn't understand it either. So I'm sitting there thinking, I could be studying. Why am I sitting in here with all these people and they're out there cheering football team or whatever, flag team, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't understand it. So I didn't appreciate that. And sometimes people ask me, you have regrets? And I said, that's kind of part of the regret is I regret that I didn't try to learn all of that so I can appreciate it. I would probably have a better high school life.
Well, you were a kid, right?
Right. But because I'm different. I mean, there were a couple of Vietnamese students in the whole school.
Yeah.
Right. But if I have, let's just say, American friends, and they would tell me, let's go to the football game or whatever, I think I would have a better experience because I understand it more. Okay, now you gotta blend in on that part culturally, but I didn't have that, and it's easy when you look back and you go, yeah, could have done that, right? So the frustration is one, and I think from there I grew some ambition, right? But it's very simple ambition. So imagine you're standing in line to get a free lunch every day, and you see some of your friends, they walk out to the parking lot and they get into a car and they drove away to go buy their lunch. I still remember there was a school newspaper and somebody wrote about In-N-Out Burger. Okay, this is when In-N-Out first came out. And they were describing how different the In-N-Out Burger was. And I remember thinking, I really want to go and experience the in and out.
Mm.
So very simple things
Mm-hmm.
but it raised that ambition, meaning, one of these days I'm going to do that. One of these days I'm going to be able to get into a car and drive out of campus to get my food, right? And so that's where I start. And it almost sounds like I'm trying to compare myself, right? But for me, I would call that ambition because I can see what it could be.
Yeah.
And as a kid, that part is very simple. I could go to lunch, I could go to in and out, but I think I carry it with me. So when I went to the university, for example, I naturally went to UC Riverside, which is the school that is closest to my house. And I see other friends, they don't have as high of a GPA, and they end up somewhere, Berkeley, like UCLA, all these famous schools. And I'm thinking, how come I didn't apply there? But it was too far, right? It's probably going to cost more money. And this school is closer to home. I can stay home and I can just drive my car there, and it's a familiar environment. But that ambition is always there.
Yeah.
I could go further. I could do more. And I think I kind of do that now, wherever I'm at, I always ask myself, can I do more? Can I achieve more? And it's not so much about the money. It's about how far can you go?
When you share these stories, have you shared these stories with your kids? I'm probably sure that your kids have heard these stories or no?
Yeah, they're forced to read the book.
Yeah.
so they would know what mom went through.
Yeah. I mean, do you think they understand the kind of life that, or what you went through to get them and yourself and your family to where you are right now?
I think they understand to a certain extent. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, there was a windstorm.
Yeah.
And it took out the electricity of the whole neighborhood for a couple of days. And I think I got a candle, just light a candle. It's like, hey, this is normal. This is like in Vietnam when you went to the countryside. And the kids were saying something along the line of, oh, we can still watch TV. Like, we can watch it on the computer, right?
Yeah.
Because the computer still has battery for certain hours. But they don't understand what it is not to have electricity, right? So they've experienced some of that, and I always reference to them, hey, this is what actually happened, right? Oh, we can't use a microwave. We're going to have to put this over the oven and the range and actually try to heat it up. It doesn't come out in 30 seconds or 1 minute. So I think a lot of time for the young kids, I think it's our job to tell them certain stories, but it's also our job try not to preach to them, right? Because when you start preaching, that's when they feel that you're imposing on them. And if you can just share certain things, and in the context that, this happened, same thing in Vietnam or whatever, they appreciate it more, and they appreciate more than you know. Yeah. They just don't tell you.
What a great parenting hack, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and of course I'm inspired by my mom, right? My dad, my aunt, and so I just like we know that we should learn from, the people who go before us, rather than, I don't know, ChatGPT or whatever it is that people do that right now. There's so much wisdom in the lives that we live, and I think it's our responsibility as parents to pass that on to the kids.
Do you still have family back in Vietnam?
Yes, I have one uncle and one aunt. Yeah, the rest of them have passed away.
Okay. Do you miss
and
them?
One aunt over here.
Yeah. Do you miss meeting them, or do you go to Vietnam now, or like have you been recently?
Yeah. Not recently. The last time I went back, I actually took my kids to go see their paternal grandma because she had Alzheimer, and I wanted them to remember grandma when grandma still remember them. Yeah. We went, and I already knew she was forgetting. And I remember I didn't want to tell the kids, but we were food shopping, on the street vendors. And when we got home, they said, Mom, Grandma come here and buy tofu. And then she crossed the street and she buy tofu. And she crossed the street and she buy tofu because she didn't remember that she had already bought tofu. So they didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to tell them. I just wanted them to at least go where Grandma still remember, hey, you're so and so and so and so.
Yeah.
She had since passed away. And so for me, it's, last time I went back was several years ago. Haven't been back recently. The kids are now grown and they want to go back because, when you go back and you're an adult, you see things a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss those days? Like when you go back and you see the same buildings and see the same houses, does it remind you of what life could have been or?
Well, it's, I miss those days in the sense that, because that's your childhood.
Yeah. I mean, of course, not the war part,
Oh, no, not the war part. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
My cousin has upgraded Grandma's house.
Yeah.
Right? So he painted it or whatever, but what he did was he put on a wall on the side of the house, and there was a little balcony. And we literally live on that balcony.
Yeah.
Especially when it's raining. That is it. That's your life, right?
Yeah.
You play everything there, and it was open, so you can just hop off and then hop back on. So I remember when I went back and I go, what is going on? Why is there a wall? So you miss that kind of thing, right? And it is life for the better because he upgraded the house, right? But you can't help it. But remember, because, for example, when you take a photo, it's the balcony. You know, it's all those steps, and like all the family photos are there, and and then when we used to go home, and it's very simple. I can just ask somebody along the street, where is so and so's house? Because those houses have no address. So you just ask, where's my grandma's house? My grandma's name is this and this, and they'll just point it to you. Now things change so much that you don't recognize where you came from. And it is for the better, but for those of us that grew up there, it's I can't really say it's for the better for us. Yeah.
It's very interesting you mentioned Alzheimer's. My grandma, my maternal grandma, has Alzheimer's, and it's very I sometimes I feel a lot of compassion when I visit home, and she stays with us, so we can take she stays with my parents, so they take care of her, and so she doesn't get lost on the streets.
Exactly.
It's to a point where the only person she remembers, is my mom, my dad, because they're around her.
Right.
And then when she sees me, she recognizes my face. She's forgotten my name. She knows, like, you're my grandson, right? Like, or like she'll know the fact that I'm related to her. Sometimes she thinks I'm her son, So it's always I remember one of my fondest memories of her they would come, my maternal grandma and grandpa, when we were young, they would come home and she would have visited the temple before coming home, and then she would always, in Indian temples, they always give you like some food.
Right.
And it's called prasad. It's like a gift, right? And then it's generally, so there's one specific one, it's called bundi, right? Bundi. It's orange colored. It's like candy. And I used to love it so much, right? And I don't know why I'm remembering this right now.
Well, because it come from grandma.
Yeah.
And
every time, she would come home, she would bring me a packet of bundi, and I would be like, you're my favorite. Like, she would always bring me bundi, and it was my favorite food to snack on or whatever. And there would be so much love.
Yes.
And I think now when I look at her, the love still stays. But it's almost like I can see her become a child again.
Right.
When she's dependent on others around her. When I look at her being confused on things, I become so compassionate and emotional, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and I think it's a big challenge, and I respect a lot of the families who have to take care of their loved ones. I mean, the kids' paternal grandmother, she was in Vietnam, so it's not like we were taking care of her.
Yeah.
But my kids, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm sure it's rubbing off mom somehow, right?
Yeah.
When they were in high school, you're supposed to do 40 hours of volunteer work, and my daughter volunteered at a they call it memory care.
Yeah.
Right. So she chose to volunteer there so she understand.
Wow.
Grandma's not around.
Yeah.
But she did that, and like they go there, and sometimes they sing for the gentlemen and the ladies there. My middle son is more very passive. Okay, he'll go there, he'll do his 40 hours, he's done. Right?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I'm done with my volunteer. The youngest one did hundreds of hours, and he just. Even one time, I think I was getting home earlier, so I'm outside, I'm calling him. Hey, I can see you inside. Because, it's walking distance. It's just like half a mile. So I can see you inside, I can pick you up now.
Yeah.
And then his answer is like, I'm supposed to be here until 6. And I said, but it's volunteer.
Yeah.
I said, no, you can come out at 5:40.
Yeah.
No, he won't come out.
Yeah.
And so they there, and I think if we can build that in our kids, right? Because obviously these are not their family members, but to build them so they have that love in them, I think is really, really important.
Yeah. Hey, a quick pause. If you're listening to this and thinking, I need more peace in my day, more clarity in my mind, then I'll really encourage you to check out The Art of Living. The Art of Living offers a technique called Sky Breath Meditation, used by CEOs, pro athletes, and high performers around the world to recharge their energy, clear that mental fog, and reset the nervous system in minutes. They offer programs both online and in person. It is science-backed and it works. Head to artofliving.org to learn more. Let's fast forward a little bit to, I think a lot of that, while it has shaped your life, you have made it a mission. I've known you from a few months, maybe a year, I think, since we've started chatting with each other. And you've really inspired me, your efforts towards building positivity or building peace or spreading positivity through your work with the film festival, the LA Tribune International Film Festival, and in general with LA Tribune, right? As the chairman of the journals, right?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit more about that work and why you choose to do that, and what are you working on now with the LA Tribune family?
Yeah. So, and thank you for the question. So like I told you at the very beginning, we're trying to assimilate, we're trying to get into mainstream, and really once I become a business owner, you try to get known so people would know and come to your dental office.
Yeah.
So life just took me down this path where I have the privilege of learning from many mentors, and one of them is Dan Kennedy.
Okay.
And he's a business guru, and his one thing is, you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right. And so I brought this book. It's called The No BS Guy in Business by Breaking All the Rules.
I love it.
Okay.
I love breaking the rules.
And what we mean by breaking the rules is essentially, do you just sit there and wait to be invited, or are you going to invite yourself in general, right? Maybe it's not your turn yet. Maybe you're not good enough, right? You don't have all the credentials. But if the opportunity is there, you put yourself there,
out there,
right? And so when the opportunity come with the Los Angeles Tribune to do first the Vietnam Journal and then to do other journals, my feeling is, hey, I got that opportunity to have a platform, to have my voice and other people's voices, right? And that's why I'm so glad we're working together. Yes. We're going to do the Art of Living Journal, because now we can bring your voices, right? The people from your tribe and Gurudev, we bring those voices in, and because if I already have the access to the platform, I would love to share. Of course, we pick and choose who we share it with, people that we are in alignment with, people who have the same value. But as you know, when you talk about media, there's good media and bad media, right? You know that you can persuade people to think one way or another. So when you're writing a book, it's the same thing. You're putting your opinions out there for somebody to read. When you're a speaker, you're speaking, you're putting your opinion out there. And when you're a journal or when you're in the media, like a virtual summit, now you're just stepping up. It's the same thing. You're stepping up, but we need to put ourselves out there, because if we are not going to be in control, it may sound like a harsh word, but you know what I mean. Like if we have the opportunity to shape it, shape the opinion by ourselves, why not? Right? And so because with Dan's teaching is you put yourself out there, and it's funny because he referenced me in this book, and he said, well, look at her, she does this and this and this and this, and she just does it on her, like she just take on this and take on that and take on that. But I think, honestly, up there, right, God has that plan for me. Of course, I have to have the courage to actually say yes and answer the knock and go do it, like the film festival. Right? When I had that opportunity, when the CEO of the Los Angeles Tribune asked me, I did remind him that I'm a dentist, right? And that I like to watch movies. But I have no experience as a film festival. But again, I know that this is my opportunity to help other people step into the light, right? So I got friends like Ruhi, right? And then, of course, I talked to you, and I asked friends from Florida, I asked friends from San Francisco, the people who actually understand, the media, this particular medium, and because I wasn't planning to do it myself. And I think I'm privileged in the sense that I have that courage, because I know a lot of people will probably say, no, I'm not going to do it. I told Mo I'm going to do it, knowing that I don't know how to do it. But knowing that I can reach out to people, or I would know people who know people. And I think that is obviously part of it is the skill. The other part is you have to want it. You have to want to pave the way, put it that way, for other people, because there are other people who paved the way for me.
Wow. And as part of that, you met Gurudev, you met us, right? My favorite part of doing a podcast with people that I know and who have interviewed Gurudev or have talked to him or met him, I personally, when I'm around him, I feel like his presence and his calmness and his serenity is so strong that I'm just, I just stop in my tracks, right? Right. And I'm always curious to know, like, what has been your experience, right? So when you got a chance to sit face to face with Gurudev, what was that like? What was going on in your mind? And because not many people actually get to do that, right? Like it's a privilege, it's a gift, but also at the same time, because LA Tribune is so much in alignment with spreading positivity, like I felt like our paths were just naturally aligning, right? So talk to us a little bit more about that. Yeah, and I'm really grateful that you said yes, because I know, just like what I just said, I will put myself there and say, what, we should do this. I should meet Gurudev, right? And it's just like you say, when you step into the room and you're waiting for him and he comes out, you feel like time slows down, right? When you're talking to these thought leaders, they lead, right? Even if he say one sentence or two sentences, or he asks you a question. My favorite, of course, I know he I'm sure you give him some information when he started saying, people floss, and I'm just like, okay, to take care of your mind, right? To keep it clean. And we were talking about controlling stress and all that. And I mean, how do you get stressed out sitting across from him? You just can't, right? And I think that inner peace
that he has there or on stage when I gave him the plaque, right, to be the humanitarian person of the year, right, the award. Again, a sense of calmness, right, and I think that sense of peace where it actually affects other people. I think that is something that for me, that's what he brought to me. And then, of course, I'm sitting there across from him and thinking, this is the person that millions of people follow.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I get to be like him? Like because sometimes people think the more noise you make, the more people pay attention, right? That's a general thinking.
Yeah.
And you look at him and you look at what's being put out there because it's practical, because it is about love and it is about peace, because it's the right thing to teach. That's how, he got followers. When I first talked to Mo and I said, well, I just met this person and, he works with so-and-so, and Mo's like, yes, he's the real deal,
Yeah.
I mean, in a business way, right?
Yeah.
But for me, and I just think that I'm so privileged to meet so many of these individuals. Like I got to meet the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And of course, not a lot of people get to do that. I get to meet Gurudev. I got to meet the Pope. I'm sure there's a very, very big mission that I still have to figure out.
I think you're already on it, right? And I know that all three of them are friends, right? Like the previous Pope and Gurudev and the Dalai Lama have met several times. Right. And it's incredible that they have their friendship and we have our friendship.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but for that, for some reason I've gotten on that path, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I said, I know I'm on a mission. It's just not really clear, right? What am I supposed to achieve? And I think I'll just segue into our documentary movie. The Vietnamese documentary movie it's called Book of Death.
Yeah.
And the Book of Death is a book that the director Jenny has collected thousands of names, I think more than 10,000 names of the Vietnamese who have lost their lives when they did the same thing as me, the boat journey, or maybe some of them walked through Thailand. And again, going back is not, it's related to me when she say, oh, it's a documentary about boat people. So I go, yes, I'm in, right? Because I'm one of the boat people. But then it went to where we're sharing it at the film festival.
Yeah.
Right? And it won award. And then we go to different countries. We're showing it in private screening.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Because we certainly are not doing it for fame.
Yeah.
Right? We're showing it in small screening, private screening with the Vietnamese community, right? We're not advertising it. I think there was a press release about it when it got an award, but I certainly have not really tried to advertise it or promote it or saying anything about it. And it's won awards all the way in Italy.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of the mission. Bits by bits, it get a little bit more clear. Like, oh, maybe this is the path that I need to be focusing on. I need to be teaching about peace.
Yeah.
Right. Teaching about love. So that's totally different than what I'm doing right now, where I'm talking about business and how to be more profitable in your business, which is that the left brain, right? That's kind of left brain stuff, and now we're going to the right brain stuff, and all of that. Just I think it's because I've been able to meet all of these leaders. Yeah, that it just got to me.
Wow, that's incredible, and as you were describing your journey, like now talking about peace and talking about love and sharing love, I feel like, you're on your way to do that. And one thing I want to say is like your movie, about the Vietnamese people, please bring it to the World Culture Film Festival.
Oh yeah, we will be submitting that. Yes.
Yeah, we would love to screen. For those of you who don't know, Art of Living runs a World Culture Film Festival. We're based out of downtown LA, so this is and that's where we're filming right now.
Yes,
so we would love to feature you guys, and then also you have already started doing a lot of work with the UN. Talk to us about that. You're speaking tomorrow at the United Nations. You're putting together a peace conference in May. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so one of my friends was sharing on Facebook that she's attending a UN meeting, and one of the ambition that we have with Jenny, the director, is to be able to show this movie worldwide.
Right.
So the movie, part of it is in English, part of it is in Vietnamese with caption, and to me, the backdrop may be the Vietnamese, but it's a universal story, right? If you look at it, which country has not had war, right? And what is the aftermath after war? We may be pointing out a little bit about, re-education camp, which sometimes that happened, right? The people who lost, they got put into prison and get torture or they lost their freedom if they lost the war, and that could happen in any war. People who try to leave the country in exodus. I spoke with one of my friends, Yvonne, and I told him we were drawing the parallel of Vietnamese and Jewish, right? And we saw all of these parallelism, and it's just because it's universal, right? Like when you get to a point where you say, okay, I need to go and find something better for my family, for my country. That's when you do those kind of things. So when I reach out to the ambassador, so my friend connected me with him, and we got on the phone, and I said, "Oh, ambassador, I just want 2 things." I said, "I want to speak for a couple minutes, and then can you play the trailer of the movie?" And I specifically asked that, going back to, okay, you're breaking the rule, you just kind of go there and say, this is what I want.
Right.
And he said yes. Yeah, he said yes. And he actually came back and told us that he wanted to give us leadership award, global leadership award. I didn't ask for that. Right. I said, no, I want to be there. I want to be in front of, certain dignitaries. I don't know who are going to be there because it's a UN meeting, so it could be different countries. But there's a platform. And if I can share that and other people hear it and maybe they want to have us go there and screen in their country or however they want, this is our opportunity. And then I think it was last year, Mo had already told me, Mo Rock, the CEO of the Tribune, had already told me that he wanted to do a global peace conference. And I mentioned it to you.
Yes.
Right? And we're just trying to figure out when is Gurudev going to be around. And all of a sudden, this ambassador brought up May 16th. No, I'm doing a global peace conference. And I said, wait a minute. We're talking the same thing here. If you're going to do that, I think, I would love to volunteer the Los Angeles Tribune to co-host it. And I would love to have the voice from the Art of Living, I reach out to the Mr. Lobsang, who represented Dalai Lama, but I don't think he's traveling. So maybe we invite Mr. Lobsang to come. And really, it's for the young people. If we can get the young people to come, because they may be coming because they may be curious. Oh, they're going to talk about the Art of Living, right? Or there's a representative from the Dalai Lama, right? Like maybe they come because of that. And if they can hear all these messages, right? If we can be in a room where there are different representatives, I think it would be so great. It's not politically motivated, because when Mo told me, I said, this is great. I want to do that because there's some countries right now, we don't have to name them, but they're on the verge of big changes. And if we can do that peacefully and give peace to those countries that are still in turmoil, right? And it comes from the young people, I think we would achieve something big.
Yeah. And, Art of Living has been working tirelessly. Gurudev especially has been working tirelessly to bring peace in Colombia, in Iraq. Like wherever there's war, like he's involved in trying to solve it and calm the temperatures down and bring people together. He's up forefront of that. So I can assure you right now, the Art of Living will have some sort of a participation at the conference. We would, we would love to volunteer to, even maybe if you are open and if the ambassador is open to co-produce the conference with you guys. But even otherwise, we would be happy to help and support in any way. And you can count on us at any time. So.
Oh, that's awesome, because that's what I told the ambassador. I said, if you let me play this trailer, I'm going to talk to the Art of Living. Well, people tell me I think that's one of my, what do they call it? Superpower, right? Which is when I look at certain things, I can see how I can bring different people together.
Very nice.
Yeah, to achieve something together.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'll be able to see the alignment, the synergy, and I'll be able to push a little bit, you really should do this.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great. We were planning to go to Africa, the movie team, to film a particular Vietnamese who he ended up all the way in Africa as a refugee. And he has made a life and a fortune from making egg rolls.
Okay.
So Jenny told me he's the king of egg rolls, right? And he's in Africa. And when the ambassador told me May 16, I told Jenny, well, I think that's like right around the time when you want to go to Africa. And she said, oh, no, we're pushing that and we want to be at the peace conference, right? So it's so many pieces just kind of come together to make the puzzle pretty.
That's wonderful.
And without our planning.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the mission.
Last question. If a younger Emily were to come in front of you right now, what would she say to you?
That's a hard question, because people usually ask me, what would you tell her?
Yeah.
I think, well, hopefully she will say, I'm pretty proud of what you've done. I think she would say, thank you. Or hopefully she would say, thank you. Thank you for doing what you've done, because it wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to have any more interview with you.
Oh. Well, let me give you a hug.
Next time Jitesh say, let's have an interview, I'm going to say no. Oh, that was a good question.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We have some gifts for you, actually.
Okay.
Have you heard of Shankar Naturals before? It's an Ayurvedic luxury beauty brand, skincare line.
Okay.
And it's one of our sponsors. So this is for
wow.
you. This is the Kumkumadi oil. It has saffron and 32 herbs. It's a face oil. So use sparingly. It's very potent. It's very pure.
Okay.
So if you use a lot, it might be too much for the skin.
Okay.
So especially if you have sensitive skin. But so just use it sparingly. And this one is my favorite. My wife loves this. It's called the Ghee Sutra. Do you know what ghee is? It's like clarified butter.
Okay.
And so they take butter and these herbs and, wash it like 10,000 times in a copper vessel.
Okay.
And it absorbs all the nutrients from the herbs and also, all the good elements of the copper, and it emulsifies. This is one of the best face products I have ever used. I don't use a lot of skincare, but I use this.
This is the one? Okay.
This is from Shankara. And then Shri Shri Tattva has golden monkey ghee. So that you can cook in this. It's the ghee that I was talking about.
Okay.
So they use a ghee like this and make it into that.
Oh, so that that
turns
and then
into
makes
this.
Okay.
Essentially. But yeah, you can cook with this.
Okay.
It's called the golden monkey ghee, and this is for you as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a
Yeah.
gift bag for you. We'll pack it up and
Okay.
so you
Okay.
can carry it.
Well, and then this. So you can take this book.
Yeah,
It's a little
absolutely.
bit out of, out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
Because he's a
definitely.
marketing guru. So
Yeah.
there's one chapter in there where he mentioned me and say, this is how crazy she is. And then this is a book writing about the Dalai Lama and the American president. I think that's what he called it. It's written by Mr. Lobsang.
Okay.
And Mr. Lobsang is the right-hand man of the Dalai Lama for many, many years. So I brought a copy for you and a copy for Gurudev.
I would be sure to pass this on
Yes.
to Gurudev, and I'm sure he would love it. And I would love
this
it
book he had just finished and he shipped it from India.
too. Oh, really? So I want
Yes.
to just show it to the cameras.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. It looks great. The Dalai Lama and the American presidents.
Yes. I think there's a lot of pictures in there documenting so many years
Okay.
of his relationship with the presidents.
Wow, that's wonderful. All right, I would love to definitely pass this on to Gurudev, and thank you so much for coming on our show, taking the time. You're very busy, obviously, and you're flying to New York tomorrow. Like I'm glad that you could make it, time for us today. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.
Hey, a quick pause. I want to share a resource I've personally trusted for years. And when it comes to living well, not just in moments of meditation or reflection, but in everyday life, what we put into our bodies matters deeply. And that is why I love Shri Shri Tattva. It's a brand rooted in authentic Ayurveda, from daily wellness supplements to natural personal care, all crafted with ancient wisdom and modern purity. No shortcuts, no hypes, just products that support real well-being from the inside out. For me, it's all about alignment between what I practice and what I teach and how I live. And Shri Shri Tattva helps me bring some of that care into my daily routine. You can explore their offerings at shrishritattvausa.com. I highly recommend checking them out. The link is also in my description below. I want to share something I've been personally loving. Shankara's Ghee Sutra is one of those rare products where ancient wisdom meets modern skincare. It's crafted from ghee that's churned 10,000 times. Yes, 10,000. Blended with Ayurvedic botanicals like hibiscus, bamboo, and it penetrates deep, up to 7 layers, to nourish, hydrate, and bring your skin back to life. No harsh chemicals, no surface level fixes, just deep, authentic care from the inside out, like everything we talk about on this show. You can check it out at shankara.com, and trust me, your skin will thank you. The link is also in the description below.